Welcome. So today we're going to talk about something that is very near and dear to my heart, and it is this whole concept of taking an idea that may be stuck in your head and that you just can't quite get moving on and put into action, and actually bringing that forth into reality. A lot of it involves the creative process, a little bit involves mindset, and there's just a touch of discipline, but not too bad. The first tip is to accept where you are. This one takes a great deal of honesty and self-reflection. So chances are, if you do have an idea that you're passionate about and you're excited to bring it to life, you're probably pretty far off from being able to realize it. And being honest with yourself about that fact is the first step, and it's really important. Otherwise, you jump in before you're really ready, you don't do the proper groundwork, and then your idea will probably not get very far and it will die on the vine before it's had a chance to develop. So the first thing is being very honest, accepting where you are, and just saying, yeah, it's a great idea, but wow, I have a lot of work, a lot of things to do before I can get there. The second tip builds on the first one, and that is to evaluate exactly what you need to do to get there. So the first one was a little bit more emotional based. This one is more practical. Sit down with a pen and paper and list out all of the pieces that you would need to put into place in order to make yourself successful on the road to accomplishing your idea, your goal, and bringing to fruition what it is that you want to create. Maybe it's you need more funding. Maybe you need more skills, more education. Maybe you need just some time carved out of your busy schedule to sit down and really focus and make it happen. Maybe you need the support of other people. Maybe you need somebody else's skills and talents. Be real clear about exactly what it is, both from a larger perspective at the macro scale and then also at the micro scale. Be very detailed and precise about what you need in order to accomplish that goal. And one more thing I want to say about tip number 2 in evaluating what you need is set a time limit for yourself. It's really easy for this step to trip you up and to get stuck here. This is where analysis paralysis can really come into play. So set a time limit. Maybe it will take you a couple of hours to go through this, maybe a few days, but be honest about how long you think it's going to take, and then cut yourself off, because this could go on forever and ever and ever, and it would be really easy to psych yourself out and ultimately come to the conclusion, well, I don't have what I need, so what's the use? All right, tip number 3, envision loosely what it is that you want to create and what you are trying to bring into the world. And the reason I emphasize and put in air quotes loosely is because if you try to come at this with such a rigid idea of what this should look like, you're never going to be successful. Part of the creative process is allowing room to grow and morph and change and develop and iterate and evolve into ultimately what this thing or idea or whatever it is that you're trying to create is supposed to be. And if you set out with a very, very clear, crisp idea of clearly defined parameters of what it should be, you're cheating yourself of all of that creative evolution. So just have a loose idea that gives you some guidelines, some guardrails, and a general direction that will pull you forward and keep you excited and motivated as you move toward it. But don't block yourself in with a very rigid definition of what you're trying to create. Tip number 4, and this is a big one for all my perfectionist friends out there. Allow yourself the grace and the space to just be messy. It is not going to be neat. There are not going to be any pretty little bows tied up and wrapped up. The creative process and bringing any idea into the real world is messy, and there's a lot of floundering and a lot of false starts and a lot of scrapped ideas and scrapped time and effort and energy that you've put into something that you necessarily have to edit out. Be okay with that. Don't feel like it's a sign that you aren't moving in the right direction or that you aren't going to be successful. It actually means that you're doing things right. If you jumped in and you landed on the first try, chances are what you're creating is not very good. So I encourage you to just embrace the uncertainty of it, the messiness of it. It's not going to be a linear progression. It's going to be fits and starts and this messy thing all around. Love it. Jump into it and feel all of that. All right, tip number 5. Now that you've followed the other 4 tips and you've got yourself in the mindset of you loosely have envisioned what you want to create, you know exactly what you need in order to bridge the gap between where you are now and where you need to get there, and you've accepted that you still have a long way to go, now it's time to just go. Just jump in and do it. Don't hold back anymore. Don't go through any more evaluating and analyzing and researching. You're ready to go, and just trust that instinct and trust that you're going to figure it out as you go along. So take action. Take massive, monumental action. Just jump in and do it. Tip number 6. I cannot stress this one enough. Iterate, iterate, and iterate. Know that that first take, that first try is not going to be what you ultimately want. And allow yourself the freedom to continue to adjust and tweak and make it better and always constantly improve and iterate, 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 iterate. That is the key to a successful creative process. Starting at point A and then very slowly and thoughtfully and carefully evolving through A.1, A.2, A.3, all the way through until you get to ultimately where you want to be. Now I promised you guys a bonus tip. Tip number 7, which is the bonus, is when you finally do reach that goal and you have created what it is that you want to create, you're going to look at it and judge it, because we all do, and we're our harshest critics. And chances are what you end up with is not going to be anything like what you first intended and first envisioned. And you know what? That is perfectly okay. Sometimes it's even better than what you first envisioned. And in that case, just do more of it. Keep going, keep creating, keep jumping off of that point onto the next point. And if it's not what you ultimately wanted to create, that's okay too. That can be really discouraging, but it's all part of it, and it's all right. At least you've done something, which is better than nothing, and you have something to work with. Go back to the previous tip that I talked about. Iterate, iterate, iterate. But don't get discouraged and don't stop. So I hope that you have found this inspiring. I hope that it will spur you into action, because nothing feels better than just feeling that great feeling of being immersed in moving towards something that you want to do. So good luck with it, and please let me know in the comments. I would love to hear your stories about an idea that you've had and how you took action, or perhaps there's an idea that you have that you just can't quite get any movement or momentum on. I want to hear about that too. We're all here to support one another and help make things easier and pave the way. So thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.